Entering Kenmore. Doors will open on the left.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome to an emergency episode of Entering Kenmore. I am David Azer alongside Zach Coe. Zach, gotta be honest, didn't expect to be speaking with you again this soon. I was kind of in Thanksgiving mode, getting ready for the holiday and everything. And then earlier today, Jeff Passan tweets, the Red Sox have acquired Sonny Gray. And first off, you didn't really hear a return, so that was a question mark, of course. And then the full return came out. It was in exchange for left-handed pitcher Brandon Clark and right-handed pitcher Richard Fitz. And the Red Sox also received $20 million on Sonny Gray's deal. So looking at the grand scheme of things, I think I am pretty happy with this deal. How are you feeling?
Yeah, like 15-year-old Zach is pumped when when Sonny Gray was on the A's. I absolutely loved him. My fantasy team name was Shades of, and then in parentheses I put Sonny Gray. Yeah, so 15-year-old Zach is pumped. 6-year-old Zach was kind of questioning the move a little bit. It was a guy that I put on my radar around the deadline when we were talking about the Red Sox needing an arm, but it just felt like with the price tag, it was going to be a $40 million deal effectively between $35 million salary plus a $5 million buyout on an option next year. But like you said, they're sending $20 million back to the Sox, so it makes it a lot more palatable. I mean, this is effectively your Lucas Giolito replacement, if at least that's what we're hoping it is. Like, I think we both kind of fall on the same page, but yeah, I was a little bit surprised, but the return wasn't crazy. A guy in Richard Fitz, who I know it's your guy, hate to see him go, love to watch him leave, but a guy who's probably a number 5 starter and innings eater, hasn't really proven that he can be healthy for a full 162, give you that full workload. And then a guy in Brandon Clark, where I think we talked about it. I didn't officially give him my biggest disappointment as a prospect pitcher, but I was certainly leaning that way. So nothing I'm super bent out of shape about.
Yeah, the interesting thing for me is that we talked last episode in our offseason primer, and Craig Breslow at the GM meetings was like, we feel pretty comfortable with our pitchers 3-ish through 10-ish. And I would put Sonny Gray in that same category, more towards the 3 or the 4. But it's interesting because when you look at this offseason, you always knew the Red Sox needed to go out and get a number 2 starter to pair with Garrett Crochet. And Sonny Gray doesn't really feel like that. I know, hopefully, like you said, this is a Lucas Giolito replacement rather than this is our number 2 starter going forward. And I'm interested to see how the rest of the offseason pans out, but it's also cool to see them kind of getting ahead of this and making a move before Thanksgiving. You don't typically see that.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, when you talk about Thanksgiving week deals, I feel like everyone just automatically defaults to Theo Epstein and Larry Lucchino at Curt Schilling's house in Thanksgiving of 2003. It's weird to see them kind of get out ahead of things. We obviously had a JT Realmuto report earlier today, which we'll get into whenever the next full episode of the podcast is. Yeah, I'd like to see them be aggressive. It's one of those things that we talked about over and over again, where it's like, okay, like you can't fall behind. You want to go out there and make moves, and they did that. So credit to them for doing that. It's just under the assumption that there's more work to be done.
Right, and I think the deal is a lot more palatable with that $20 million coming back, because if you were paying 35 or so, however much for one season of Sonny Gray, that's pretty insane. But
that would have been disgusting.
Absolutely. And I feel like baseball does this way more than any other league in terms of like Passan will tweet out, okay, the Red Sox are trading for Sonny Gray, but you don't know what's coming back for like 10, 15 minutes. And you're just sitting there like,
right.
Okay, this could be catastrophic or this could be not too bad. And in the grand scheme of things, Brandon Clark, I feel like never was really going to get a chance here just because of how many pitchers we have already seen come up and pitch well in terms of Connolly Early, Peyton Tolley, and whether or not those guys get moved remains to be seen. But even still, it felt like Clark had a lot of people in front of him that I would rather give the ball to. And like you said, Richard Fitz, I think his contributions came mostly in the dugout doing the celebrations with Garrett Crochet. So I'm a little bit upset that we're not getting more of those. But on the mound, he really didn't give you much at all this season. So it's like, I can't be too bent out of shape for the return.
Yeah, and Clark, he's a guy who caught a whole lot of helium. Baseball America had him in the back end of their top 100. During spring training, he kind of fell off. He's currently number 8 on Sox prospects, but Ian Kundl said on Twitter that 8 through 15 are kind of their own tier. Like, obviously, you kind of look at these things in tiers. And that, depending on who you ask, Clark could be closer to 15 than he is 8. And MLB Pipeline has him at 5, but I think that everyone agrees that that's a little bit ambitious. Talked about him a little bit on that and the first annual Entering Kenmore Awards, but obviously a ton of reliever risk with him. Electric fastball, an electric slider, but he really couldn't sustain it throughout the full course of the minor league season. And so I think, like, to me, it says something when this front office and this development system is giving up on a guy with this kind of stuff from Brandon Clark. Like, obviously, yes, you improve your short-term outlook in getting a guy in Sonny Gray who hopefully slots in as your number 3. But they're just, like you said, there's so many guys in front of Brandon Clark. Like, you didn't trade Tolle, you didn't trade early. To a certain extent, you held on to Harrison, Juan Valera. Some of these guys, like you said, there are a lot of pitching prospects. Kyson Witherspoon is another one that are above Brandon Clark on the depth chart. So it's one of those things where you make your team, well, not right now, but your 2026 team a lot better and also not sacrifice too much of the future.
Yeah, and I listened to Rob Bradford join Jones and Keefe right after the news dropped, and he mentioned that the $20 million you're giving to Sonny Gray is basically what you gave to Walker Buehler last year, and the upside is way more than Walker Buehler. I mean, we saw how that panned out. Obviously, he didn't finish the year with the team, and Sonny Gray, as I was looking on Twitter, a lot of people said he got pretty unlucky last year in terms of the ERA compared to the FIP. I think it was like a point lower ERA.
Yeah, I have it in front of me.
Yeah.
It was a 4.28 ERA and a 3.39 FIP.
Right. So basically a point there. And it seemed like a lot of the metrics play towards Fenway as well. So I'm interested to see how that works, because I think if you go into next season and Sonny Gray's your number 2, I'm not feeling great about the outlook of this rotation. But if you go in and it's like, okay, you have Crochet, you have whoever you bring in as your number 2, Bayo, and then Sonny Gray as your 4, I mean, that's a pretty solid rotation.
Yeah, and I mean, even I think Sonny Gray can be your 3, but it's something that I was harping on. Like, that was what I wanted. I thought they needed 2 starters. I kind of just let that go because of what Craig Breslow said, but now I'm kind of back in. Like, I think we're both at the point now where we'd be disappointed if this is the only addition to the rotation. So does the next one come in another form of a trade because Joe Ryan's cheap, Freddie Peralta's cheap, or do they go big fish hunting in terms of the free agent starting pitchers, whether it be Framber Valdez and Cease, less in on Zach Gallen? Those are really my top 2, Valdez and Cease, but it's interesting to see where they're going to go from here because, like you said, Freddie Peralta, geez. Sonny Gray, he got unlucky last year, FIP almost a full run lower, but it mostly came because of home run balls. It was his second highest career home run per 9 in 2025 at 125, just 10th of a home run lower than it was in 2021 playing for the Reds. Something that stuck out to me was Red Sox Stats tweeted this out. Versus right-handed batters, a bunch of pitchers that could be available. Which one gives up air pull to right-handed batters? So obviously that would be the ball going towards the monster. And Sonny Gray gave up the second lowest percentage of balls pulled in the air at 13% behind Framber Valdez. So obviously this is a guy whose profile fits to Fenway in terms of when he is giving up hard contact, he's giving it up to the deeper parts of Fenway. And also, this one comes from Jay Hay over on Baseball is Dead. The last 2 seasons, there were 5 pitchers that had a sweeper whiff percentage above 40%, and 2 of them were Sonny Gray and Garrett Crochet. Also from Jay Hay, the 4-seamer effectiveness on Sonny Gray. He gave up a 370 batting average with a 585 slug on the 4-seamer. So we know that this pitching infrastructure hates guys that throw fastballs, and especially one that gets crushed as hard as Gray's did last year. It feels like that's going to be a pretty simple fix for them. Like, all right, hey, this fastball fucking sucks. So let's just completely get rid of it and then focus on what you're actually good at, which is throwing breaking balls.
Yeah, and the other interesting part of this is they really didn't give up that much, like I said, and it still seems like they have the ammunition to go out and make another trade or 2. Like, you gave up Richard Fitz and Brandon Clark. Like, a lot of those other guys in the farm system, given like Franklin, Arias, I wouldn't want to trade Perales, but some of these other guys down there, like Yastinks and Garcia, you still have a lot of ammunition to go out and potentially bring in another number 2 or add to your offense via the trade as well. And I just think they have a lot of money that they still have at their disposal, and a lot of things can happen. It's cool to see this happen so early, like I mentioned before, just because there's still a ton of possibilities out there to make your roster even better, and this is kind of just getting ahead of the curve here.
Yeah, definitely. And like we said, like you mentioned it, some of the batters, I focused on a lot of the hitters, but Juan Valera, Tolley, Connolly Early, Kyson Witherspoon, Luis Perales, the list goes on and on. You didn't use any of your big guns, Justinson Garcia, Franklin Arias are all still here. So you definitely still have the ammo to go out and land a Joe Ryan, go out and land a Freddie Peralta. If that's how the addition in the lineup is going to come, you can still find out a way to do that. And that's just in the minors. You still have Wilyer Abreu, you still have Jarren Duran, you still have trade chips on your major league roster, and still have that outfield logjam to fill. So definitely a lot of room for them to like make themselves a true World Series contender. And if this is the first move into doing that, then I think that's more than fine. Like I said, this is a guy in Sonny Gray who I've always loved for like pretty much no reason at all, just growing up watching baseball. But it's one of those things that sets you up really nicely if he's your number 3. Obviously, I think we're not thrilled if he's the number 2, but if it's Crochet, and then we're still talking about those same Freddie Peralta, Joe Ryan, Framber Valdez, Dylan Cease, Sonny Gray, Brian Bayo, and then you let Cutter Crawford and Hunter Dobbins and Patrick Sandoval duke it out for that 5th starter spot. I think that is like we're talking about one of the best rotations in baseball at that point.
Not to mention you feel pretty comfortable with your depth, whoever doesn't get that number 5 spot. Like if there were to be another injury and you call up, say, a Hunter Dobbins or a Connolly Early, a Peyton Tolley, if they're all still here, then you feel pretty comfortable about your depth there as well. And the other interesting thing is I've seen a lot of angry people on Twitter being like, oh, this offseason's already a failure. When, like, just...
They've made one move.
Take a step back. You don't see, like I said, you don't see moves typically like this before Thanksgiving. And a baseball offseason unfolds slower than pretty much anything I've ever seen. So give it some time. I don't think we need to be so quick to react to be like, oh, Sonny Gray is automatically your number 2. They're not going to do anything else in the rotation. Like, I just don't buy that. I don't know if that's blind optimism. I don't know if that's just, oh, I'm all in on Breslow and seeing what he can do this offseason. But I can't believe that the Red Sox front office is stupid enough to be like, okay, we got Sonny Gray on November 25th. That's all we're doing in the rotation. Like,
yeah,
I just don't buy that.
Congratulations, here it is. No, I completely agree with you. And last year, I think Breslow earned the benefit of the doubt. And like you said, it's not like this move came on the first day of spring training where it's like, oh shit, we didn't do anything. We've got to figure something out here. It came on, like you said, November 25th. The winter meetings haven't even happened yet. They're, aside from a handful of minor league deals, a handful of low, like, back end of free agency deals, the only 2 major free agents that have signed have gone back to their original teams. So free agency hasn't really even gotten underway yet. So I'm definitely willing to give Breslow the benefit of the doubt. And then if it comes March 1st and these are the deals that you've made and that's it, then it's like, okay, well, like, this was a failure. But all these people that are freaking out over it, I'm right there with you. Let's pump the brakes.
Yeah, let's give it a little bit of time, see how this offseason develops. Like you said, winter meetings haven't even happened. I think that's in like a week and a half. It's like the weekend, December 6th or so, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And typically you don't see a whole lot of movement during those meetings as well. So it could be a little while. We could be looking at New Year's by the time like any real moves of significance are made. So I just don't like people hitting the panic button this early into the offseason. I'm not one of those people. I'm willing to see this out, however that may happen. Did you have anything else you wanted to add? I know we've gone pretty quick here.
Yeah, just a couple more peripheral things on Sonny Gray. He's a guy that can eat innings for you. 180 innings pitched in this last season. The year before that, it was 166, and in 2023, it was 184. He's not going to walk a whole lot of guys, just a 5% walk rate in 2025, which was good for 93rd percentile. Jay Hay, another good nugget from him. He was just firing them all off one by one after this trade went down. But the best strikeout to walk percentage for right-handed pitchers this season Paul Skeens, 23%. Joe Ryan at 22%. Their percentage, their decimals after that, but just for the sake of getting through them. Brian Wu, 22%. Jacob deGrom, 22%. And at 21.6%, good for 5th best, is Sonny Gray. So a guy that's going to strike out a lot of guys. Obviously, it's someone that, like we said, they see something in him that they can fix. I would venture to guess that it's just stop throwing the fastball that sucks, because after that, he still throws the sweeper, a curve, a slider, a cutter, a change. So it's a lot of and a sinker. So it's just a lot of different pitches. So if you can be like, oh, okay, like let's lean into the sinker instead of the four seam, because the four seam sucks. Like it's something that we've seen this pitching infrastructure do over and over again. So it's something I have faith in them to be able to figure it out and do it again. And like, honestly, they're not making a trade like this. I believe Sonny Gray had a no trade clause.
He did.
Too. I know he said at the end of the season that he was willing to waive it because he wants to win, but I assume that there was some level of conversation between the Red Sox and Sonny Gray being like, hey man, here's our plan. Like, what do you think? Because he could say, no, I don't want to play for the Red Sox. Like, even if they are a team that's built to win, if he doesn't like the plan they have for him, he can just as easily tell them to go fuck themselves. So yeah, I like the move. I'm confident that they have some sort of plan to get him back on track, at least in terms of the hard hit and the home run rate, which again, like I said, was also I'm a liar. It was the third highest of his career, because I just pulled it back up and I found a 138 homers per 9 all the way back in 2016. So
back when Zach was naming his fantasy team after Sonny Gray.
Yes, yeah, bingo.
But about the Red Sox rotation as a whole, they really lacked the swing and miss behind Garrett Crochet. I mean, Brian Bayo is always a pitch to contact guy, and behind him, like Giolito, the strikeout pitch wasn't always working, and then you had a couple question marks behind him as well in Connolly Early, Peyton Tolley, some other guys, Walker Buehler. So to bring in some more swing and miss, I am more than happy with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is Sonny Gray was 9th in strikeouts per 9 in all of baseball of pitchers that were qualified at 10.01. So now you have two guys that were in the top 10. Garrett Crochet was obviously 2nd. And honestly, like if you do what you're supposed to do, you could end up with 3 guys that were top 10 in K per 9 last year, because number 1, Dylan Cease, 11.52. Number 6, Freddie Peralta, 10.39. And number 8, Joe Ryan, 10.21. So like those are 3 names that we've been talking about a lot in terms of where they could turn for this offseason. So I'm pretty excited about that, assuming that there's another move coming.
Yeah, no doubt. I think people who are upset about this, breathe, give it a second, realize that MLB offseasons take forever to develop, and this will not be the only move the Red Sox make. But looking at it in a vacuum, I think I'm pretty happy with this move overall.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, I think that about does it for this emergency pod. Thanks so much for listening. We'll check in with you guys if there's any other emergencies we have to report, or regardless, we will be with you throughout the whole offseason. So thanks so much for listening.
Happy Thanksgiving.